Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Mayer. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for Academic and Health Affairs at the Coordinating Board. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone to the Texas Transfer Advisory Committee meeting, and especially want to welcome our new members. I know we have, I think, a handful of folks that this is probably their second meeting, so just want to welcome you again. And before we begin, I'd like to ask everyone to please observe the following etiquette. I know you guys have this down after several years of doing Zoom calls, but if you could please just state your name before you speak, mute your microphone when you're not speaking, and if you could just keep any background noise to a minimum. So let me just say how much I appreciate the institutions that each of you represent for supporting your time and effort on the advisory committee. It's not lost on us at the coordinating board how much time and effort that goes into your participation. And I also want to thank the co-chairs that are going to be presenting today. For those of you that have participated in these subcommittee meetings, this is usually a 7 to 8 hour endeavor that they go through to develop a potentially recommended fields of study. So I also just want to thank them for their participation and their continued leadership for their respective disciplines. And so thanks to your hard work and that of the colleagues who generously give their time to serve on the fields of study committees, we are making some progress. And you'll hear today, as you all saw from the agenda, the recommendations for education, fields of study, and for history. In addition, you'll also hear on the work on the alternative framework that we talked about last time, that you all recommended a work group be developed and established to discuss some options for those disciplines that can be challenging in terms of lower division coursework. So we'll provide an update on that. And then lastly, we're going to hear a presentation on the non-transferable credit report by Dr. Christina Zavala from our data team, and then just engage on a discussion regarding possible action for a modified semester credit hour for directed electives, which is based upon some rules that we revised at our January board meeting. So before we move on to the next item, I just want to take this opportunity to reintroduce your two co-chairs of TTAC who will be leading us through today's agenda. Dr. Laurel Williamson, who serves as the Deputy Chancellor and College President for San Jacinto College, and then Dr. James Hallmark, who serves as the Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at the Texas A&M University System. Many of you know Laurel and James well, and who are respected by their peers across the state, along with many others. James and Laurel have already provided countless hours on this effort, not only during the TTAC, but also during the 7 to 8 months of development of the rules that were used to develop the new transfer framework. So I'm now going to turn things over to Dr. Hallmark so we can get a call of the roll of TTAC members and declare a quorum.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and good afternoon, everyone. We'll be calling a roll in order to determine who's here and determine that we have a quorum. And when I call your name, please unmute and indicate either here or present, and we'll be able to certify that we do have a quorum, presumably. We'll start with the TTAC members representing our four-year universities. Melissa Becker from Tarleton State University. Well, that's not a good start. Hammer Bolch from Texas State.
Present.
Thank you. Sarah Bowden from UT Tyler.
Present.
Shannon Goodman, UNT.
Present.
Ann Kinnemer, Texas A&M.
I'm here.
Mitzi Lauderdale, Texas Tech.
Present.
Jennifer McDowell, UT Dallas. Jennifer McDowell. Michael Nojem, Prairie View A&M.
Present.
Todd Romero, University of Houston.
Present.
Laura Symes, UT RGV.
Present.
Timothy Yoon at UT San Antonio.
Present.
I think we have two missing from that group.
Yeah.
Okay. And our ex officio members, Alvin Johnson from Prairie View A&M.
Present.
and Camille Brown, UT Austin.
Present.
Now I'll call on members of TTAC representing the community colleges. Gary Evans from Collin College,
Present.
Sylvia Flores from South Texas College,
Present.
Bayless Giorgio from Dallas College,
Narayan Thapa instead of Tulis Giorgio.
Oh, okay. He, I guess, is taking Bill's Giorgio's place.
Max Hibbs, Glenn College,
Present.
Fred Hills, McLennan Community College,
Present.
Angelica Gomez Johnson, Del Mar College, Angelica,
She just, no, that was so. Oh,
Marnouche Motamedi, Odessa College,
Present.
Melinda Mejia, Houston Community College. Melinda,
Present.
there she is.
I got present, okay. Karen Morris, Kilgore College,
Present.
Galen, I'm sorry, this one. Edith Orozco, Alamo College, St. Philip's College,
Present.
Galen Scott, Austin Community College,
Present.
and serving ex officio Gracie Martinez from Del Mar,
Present.
and Karim Grar, Austin Community College. No. Okay. Thank you, members, and please record the notes that we have a quorum. I think we have a quorum, yes.
Yes.
Good deal. To be sure, and as we mentioned earlier, to ensure that we comply with Texas open meeting requirements and to ensure that we do maintain a quorum, please keep your cameras turned on for the duration of the meeting. I'd like to move to agenda item 2, which is the adoption of the summary notes. Do I have a motion to adopt the December 7th, 2022 summary notes from the Texas Transfer Advisory Committee?
Fred Hill moves.
Okay. Fred moves. We have a second.
Second from Galen Scott.
Second from Galen. Do I need one from both?
No,
Okay.
that's fine.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Oh, Melissa Becker just entered, but she did not oppose.
She did not oppose.
There we go.
She was hanging.
Yeah, make note of it.
Yeah, she's here.
Okay. So the minutes were approved,
Yes.
summary notes were approved. I'll turn this over to Dr. Williamson to move on to the next agenda.
Good afternoon. Our next agenda is item is a presentation and possible action to recommend the education field of study curriculum. At this time, I'll turn things over to Angelo Alcala from Dallas College and Jennifer Kwong from the Texas Women's University. The two TTAC members who served on this subcommittee were Karen Morris, Kilgore College, and Melissa Becker, Tarleton State University. So Angelo and Jennifer, please begin your presentation.
Hello, and thank you for allowing us to come speak to you today. So we wanted to give a little bit of background about our subcommittee. I am Dr. Jennifer Kwong, and Dr. Alcala, would you like to say hello, just so we can see your face?
Hello, everyone.
So we met on February 21st and 22nd, and we also met on March 23rd, 2023 for the first education discipline specific subcommittee to consider recommendations to TTAC. We had 30 faculty members in the discipline of education. We included equal representation from the community colleges and the universities. They were appointed to the subcommittee, including 10 faculty members in each of the 3 certification areas, being EC through 3, EC through 6, and 4 through 8 core subjects. And on that first day, myself and Dr. Akala were elected as co-chairs. So we heard an introduction and an interview from the Texas Transfer Framework delivered by Karen Morris from Kilgore College and Dr. Melissa Becker from Tarleton State. We heard presentations on the mechanics of the new transfer framework, the field of study curriculum, and other transfer policies from the coordinating board. And so the initial task was to see if there could be one field of study for all three pathways. And we quickly decided that we needed to design three distinct fields of study. The EC through 6 and the EC through 6 and the 4 through 8 look very similar. And so we spent February 21st and 22nd focused on these two fields of study. So the next slide. These were the recommendations. And so the first was looking at those buckets for the foundation courses. What we thought everyone needed to know was the two education courses, Education 1301, Introduction to the Teaching Profession, and Education 2301, Introduction to Special Populations. Then the conversation shifted to what else needed to be in there. And so the two Mathematics for Teachers 1 and 2 were also included. And because Math 1350 and Math 1351 were included, we decided to make Math 1314 College Algebra a discipline-specific core curriculum because that is a requirement or a prerequisite in the ACGM for those two maths. So then we wanted to broaden the directed electives to allow some flexibility. And so we had some discussion over having child growth and development, family, schools, and community, and then keeping the sciences that were in the current EC through 6 degree, as well as adding Texas history, Econ 2301, principles of macroeconomics, elementary physics, and then we went into either music appreciation or art appreciation. We tried to think about the large variety of offerings from the community colleges and the receiving institutions, trying to keep the directed electives broad and yet focused on what we thought pre-service teachers needed to be successful in the classroom. The next discussion was over the 4 through 8 grade core subjects. And once again, very similar to the EC through 6, where we said the two introductory education courses and then the two fundamentals of math for teachers 1 and 2 were necessary for teachers coming in to teach, which also triggered the prerequisite of Math 1314 for college algebra. And then the discussion moved on to directed electives. And once again, very similar with including child growth and development, now adding an English 1302 composition to the sciences, the Texas history requirement, Econ 2301, and then the appreciations at the bottom. So the recommendations that the Education Field of Study Committee came forward were 3 that were going to 3 hours in the core curriculum with Math 1314. We were going to keep the 12 hours in the discipline foundation courses, and then 6 directed electives, choosing from the larger pool. The next one we talked about on March 23rd, PK3 or EC through 3 is a very new degree coming out of TEA. And so there was some discussion. Some universities hadn't had a lot of, everyone's in the process of designing it. So right now, only 9 institutions in Texas have been approved with the new degree, as well as offering the certification. And so the thought behind it was we're in the middle of creating, and universities are designing these brand new EC through 3 programs. And so we wanted to keep the idea of keeping it as broad and open as possible in these initial phases. And so we said the 2 education courses, Education 1301, Introduction to the Teaching Profession, and Education 2301, Introduction to Special Populations, should be a requirement from all students in an EC through 3 program. But then when we moved to, did we want to add any more? Once again, there wasn't a lot of consistency in what the EC through 3 programs at universities look like. People were currently designing them. And so we decided that we would have more directed electives and put Math 1350 and Math 1351 down at the bottom. We didn't necessarily want to make Math 1314 a core curriculum requirement as these new degrees were being developed. And so for that reason, we put the maths in the directed electives rather than in the discipline foundation courses. The other discussion had to do with child growth and development. And universities and community colleges are still in the discussion of where that should be in a pre-service teacher's coursework. Should that be something foundational that comes at the community college level? Is that something that the universities would like to have in their repertoire of course offerings? And so for that reason, child growth and development stayed in the directed electives bucket. And we were giving the universities and the directed electives more opportunities as they continue to grow their programs. So this is what it looks like with 0 from the Texas core curriculum, 6 in the discipline foundation courses, and 12 in the directed electives. And that is our presentation. What questions do you have for myself and
Floor
Dr.
is open for discussion, so questions, please.
Shannon Goodman from UNT. Just be curious, did you have any conversations with regards to, I see we've got the any balancing, I guess, if you will, of education content, moving some of that in the lower division versus more of it being pushed in the upper, and then having all the, like the 3 math requirements in the lower division requirement rather than spreading that out. Just kind of curious.
There wasn't any discussion about that topic about that.
Did you have courses specifically in mind, Shannon, that you were thinking about other than math?
Well, one of the things that we do is they kind of have a compound certification. So rather than having like ESL separate, they bring a lot of some ESL courses. They want students to have that experience in multi lingual and bilingual courses, and then trying to spread out, I guess, understanding that some balance and bringing some of the education content forward. So looking at some of the math, like the math 1350, 51, not necessarily being on the front end, and being able to bring a couple other education courses like the ESL and multilingual courses earlier on in the
So you're thinking switching out, sort of flipping the math to wait to take it at the upper division, and then putting more of the 1100 or 1200 education courses in the community college in the lower division. Any other comments about that? Jennifer?
There was some discussion about Math 1350 and 1351, the prerequisite being Math 1314, and switching Math 1350 and Math 1351 to be a course that was taken at the university, because that college algebra requirement is not required at all universities. I can only speak for Texas Woman's, and it's not, they can take Math 1332 and then come to the university and take Fundamentals of Math 1 and 2. And so we wanted to keep that option, at least in the EC through 3, still flexible. The other idea was looking at articulations with AAS in early childhood education and having that be a pathway for some students if they currently work in early childhood education and they want to become a teacher. Starting to look at articulations with AASs into BSs in early childhood education. And so we were trying to keep, once again, the EC through 3 more flexible, not locking in a math, to allow those kinds of articulations to happen as well.
So are you saying, Jennifer, that the Math 1314 is not a prereq at every institution for the 1350 and 1351?
Correct.
So that's not a sequence that's defined by ACGM.
At the community college, it is. So the prerequisite and the ACGM says Math 1314 college algebra is a prerequisite for Math 1350 and Math 1351. The courses, the equivalency courses at the university don't have that college algebra requirement.
Okay.
Alvin's got his hand
This
up.
is Shannon Goodman again. Good. And so yeah, just kind of the EC 3, I think, was, which you were just, Jennifer, you were just speaking to, I think kind of provide a little bit more of that flexibility that I think our College of Education was asking for or wondering about in the EC 6.
Great. I know, Alvin, did you have a question, comment?
Yes, I had a question about, were there discussions had about the 4 through 8 certifications that are not the generalists, but like the math, the English language arts and social studies, and recommendations for those transferable courses?
The focus of the committee was just 4 through 8 core subjects. We did not delve into any specific disciplines.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can help answer that. So I think the idea is that initially to get the 4 through 8 core subjects done, and then we can see in terms of priority if we want to move forward with any of the other 4 through 8 areas, which I think you all will talk about at the end of the day today.
Thank you.
We still weren't 100% sure, I think, about how we were going to move forward with education. And so this group really spent a little bit of time going through, I don't want to say what are the easier ones, but one of the ones that I think are most prolific across institutions as a starting point. And they did it. And it was a lot of discussion, and we can have a further discussion about what other ones might make sense moving forward. But really this first group of folks came together and decided, yes, 1 for education didn't really make sense because of the complexities of the certifications. And so they did the 3, and then moving forward, based upon some of that discussion, and co-chair or the co-chairs, if you could feel free to correct me, but that we need to also make sure that the right people are in based upon those different pathways, because not all the people know all the things for
Yes.
the various certifications. So the call for nominations would be specific, so the right people were at the table.
I know we've been, this is sort of a related topic, not exactly our topic, but I know that we've been having discussions as we have been doing some math redesign at San Jacinto College about the efficacy of the 1314 prereq for 1350 and 1351. And, you know, that would be on the community colleges to decide what avenue might be to address whether that makes sense or not. That's according to our math faculty, it does not really. So.
And one thing I wanted to mention, this is Angelo, in terms of the EC through 3, where we were thinking that maybe this might be something that would be revisited as more of these programs are approved at the universities.
This is Laurel, and I know that they're also on the table as an additional bachelor's degree at some community colleges as well. So I think it's a fairly pervasive statewide discussion. So I think that it would behoove us to maybe look at that once we're a little further down the road in putting those in place.
Mhm.
All right, other
I believe
questions?
I'll raise my hand. I don't have a button to push to. Two things, unrelated, two items unrelated. One is what in our rules, these are reviewed every, seems like it was 5 years.
Yeah, I think
or
it's
something.
5 years, but if there's an issue that comes up. So the co-chairs, I know we went over this when we met with all the subcommittees. The subcommittees are convened for 3 years. So in their appointment letters, it says you're on the hook for 3 years. So if there's a problem, we revisit. So if the field, we tried to have an off ramp so that if something does change in the field, we have a mechanism to come back. The regular schedule, I think, is 5 years. But if people start raising their hand on this, then we can bring that subcommittee back together.
And that would be true 2 years from
Yes,
now.
correct.
It might also be true in the next 60, 90 days.
Right.
Because again, describing the process, we're an advisory committee, we recommend something, and then it goes out for comment, and it may well be that at that comment period, if it goes that far, if in that comment period, there's something that is like, all right, we need to have some more discussion on this.
Yeah.
So I wanted y'all to be aware of that, just in terms of process. The second item I wanted to ask of Jennifer and Angelo was, I asked of all the committees so far, the committee chairs, any dissenting opinions in the group, and what were those voices? What did they have to say?
I know the voting results, and there was 1 or 2 dissents in each of the votes. There wasn't anything specific that I can point to that someone in the discussion said, I disagree with this.
And you guys had some abstentions
Yes,
for EC through 3.
4 through 8.
4 through 8.
Just 4 through 8.
Sorry, just 4 through 8, because they did it.
Yeah, not all of the institutions might not have the 4 through 8 core subjects. I think some just have the math and science. And I think I will just offer this as Emma. One thing I remember from the meeting is the universities wanting, some of them wanting much less to provide more flexibility around the courses that they accepted, but we talked through that, and the co-chairs sort of guided them back to having more structure for the students. But I think that's probably a common theme in most of these meetings.
The other thing I will point out is that the EC through 6 versus the EC through 3 content exam that they are required to take has a very different structure. The EC through 6 is more content focused with the different subject matters. The EC through 3 is a more broader looking at child development, observation and assessment, where only 20% of the exam is based over content. And so that was another thing that made it a little bit different than the EC through 6 or the 4 through 8 core subjects as well.
Thank you. Other questions or comments, concerns? Okay, if the discussion questions that's concluded, I would ask for a motion and a second from both the university and the community college sectors.
I so move. Sylvia Flores, South Texas College.
Okay, we have a, do I have it?
Hills, McLennan Community College.
Okay. Have a first and second from community colleges.
I'll second Melissa Becker, Tarleton State.
Okay. Did we need another second
Yeah, I think we need a second from the universities.
from universities?
I second Mike Nojheim from the universities.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. So we will do, we have our motions and seconds from both sectors. We can do the vote via roll call per TTAC rules. A 2/3 majority of those present and voting is needed from the university and the community college. So here we go. Please respond yes or no. Melissa Becker,
Yes.
Amber Bulch,
Yes.
Sarah Bowden,
Yes.
Shannon Goodman,
I'm gonna need to dissent based on, our colleagues. I'll say no.
Ann Kennemer,
Yes.
Mitzi Lauderdale.
Yes.
I don't think Jennifer McDowell joined us, but Jennifer McDowell. Okay, Michael Nojim,
Yes.
Todd Romero,
Yes.
Laura Sines,
Yes.
Timothy Ewan,
Yes.
James Hallmark.
Yes.
All right, community colleges. Gary Evans,
Yes.
Sylvia Flores.
Yes.
And I think we have Narahan Thapa
Yes.
representing Thaddeus Giorgio. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Max Hibbs,
Yes.
Fred Hills,
Yes.
Angela Gomez Johnson. She's not joined us. Marnoush Montemedi,
Yes.
Melinda Mejia,
Yes.
Karen Morris, Edith Orozco,
Yes.
Galen Scott,
Yes.
and I, Laura Williamson, vote yes. Thank you. I think we had all yes, 4 and 1 vote against.
Yes.
All right. I will turn it over now to James.
Thank you, Laura. Next on the agenda is a presentation of the recommended history field of study. I'll turn things over to Jacob Blosser from Texas Woman's University and Trinidad Gonzalez from South Texas College. The TTAC members who served on this subcommittee were Sylvia Flores, South Texas College, and Mitzi Lauderdale from Texas Tech University. Jacob and Trinidad.
Good afternoon. I'm Jake Blosser from Texas Woman's University, and we have our presentation there coming up. I have the great pleasure of co-chairing this committee with Trinidad Gonzalez from South Texas. You'll hear from Dr. Gonzalez in a few minutes. What I'd like to tell you now is that we met on March 29th and 30th to consider recommendations to this body. The subcommittee consisted of approximately 38 faculty members in the discipline of history, including equal representation from 2-year institutions and from 4-year institutions. And on the first day, the subcommittee elected Dr. Gonzalez and myself as co-chairs. The subcommittee heard an introduction and overview of the Texas Transfer Framework delivered by 2 members from TTAC, Sylvia Flores from South Texas College and Mitzi Lauderdale from Texas Tech University. In addition, the subcommittee heard presentations on the mechanics of new Texas Transfer Framework and the field of study curriculum and other transfer policies from coordinating board staff. And after a robust 2-day-long discussion, the subcommittee voted affirmatively to adopt our curriculum, and Dr. Gonzalez will talk about that.
Hi, everybody. Trin Gonzalez, South Texas College. I'm glad to be here with my colleague Jake and the rest of the members of the committee. So we had a pretty robust discussion. As you can imagine, as historians, we tend to be kind of argumentative and see complexity everywhere. It's built into our discipline to not simplify things. But after that robust discussion, and we'll talk about some suggestions the committee had, in particular at the end of this. But for the core, it was pretty unanimous, 1301 and 1302, United States history. That's uniformly taught across the state at all the institutions. So it was an easy selection there. For the foundation courses, a lot of discussion there. World Civilizations 1 and 2, were pretty universal, except that faculty are making requests to revisit those courses and rename them world history and looking at their outcomes as so forth to update with the current scholarship of how we teach those subjects. Texas history was a little bit more controversial. Some members felt it was not a foundational class in the sense of the breadth of what could be taught, but because it's so commonly taught, we decided at the end to keep it in the foundation courses. Next slide. And then for the directed electives, more discussion about this because there was individuals who wanted to recommend courses outside the discipline of history based on what was uniquely accepted at their institution, right? So some people wanted statistics or math or I can't remember the other specific courses they want, but it wasn't universally across the board that all universities had that sort of requirement for their history majors. And so we settled on the courses you see in front of you, Mexican American History 1 and 2, African American History 1 and 2, and the Academic Cooperative, which is basically a special topics class that teaches students usually methodologies and historiography within the discipline of history, which is proven to be very helpful as they move to the advanced courses at the respective universities they transfer to. So those are pretty straightforward recommendations. If you have questions, we'd be willing to address that. But the general consensus amongst everybody, and Jake can, I think, support me when I say this, is that we wanted everything to be accepted and not to have to pick classes. But that's not a directive for what we were doing in this committee. So we selected the classes, but our sense is to be as helpful to transfer students as best we can through our various departments.
There was one major issue that the committee asked us to bring to you, as in addition to was some concern that we wanted more ability for students to choose among groups of courses. But when we realized we couldn't do that, we found nearly unanimous decision on the courses we selected. But one issue that's really concerning for four-year institutions is the issue of foreign languages. The vast majority of receiving four-year institutions in the state only offer history as a BA degree, and they require, it varies greatly, from 6 to 14 hours of foreign language for that degree. And there's some concern that because we weren't able to specify languages in this field of study, that these institutions may no longer be able to offer their BA degrees because the language requirement is a departmental requirement. And so that's a real concern for four-year institutions, is how are we going to continue to be able to offer BA degrees without the foreign languages in a field of study? I don't have particular answers to that. I did not have answers to that at our meeting. None of us did, but we all struggled mightily with that and wanted to bring that to your attention. It's also my understanding that there will be other disciplines, specifically English, that will also struggle with this same question, because so many of the English degrees are BA degrees and also require 12 hours or more of foreign language.
Yeah, just to check what Jake said, our concern was we didn't want to pick the language for the student or the institutions that have to accept. And we couldn't create a category just saying, languages, and then the students pick whichever language they want to learn for their degree pathway.
Ideally, it might be best to have, two different pathways: a pathway for those planning to earn a BA degree, and a pathway for those planning to earn a BS degree, because the degree requirements are so different, and there are different levels of undergraduate lower division credit acceptable in each degree. The BA degree has far many more hours because it has up to 14 hours of lower level language in it. We weren't able to do that, and so we're kind of left struggling with a degree plan that is good, but it raises some really tricky questions about the future of BA degrees that require lower level language.
Questions?
Do community colleges at this point, for a student who's majoring in history or English, are they commonly teaching foreign languages right now?
This is Galen Scott at Austin Community College. We certainly have at least 2 semesters of a foreign language in many of our Associate of Arts degrees.
I don't know how to answer that because I think it's going to vary from community college to community college on how much they require for foreign language, or if it's going to be an option within a bucket of classes they could take to meet the requirement. At SDC, we've created buckets of courses so they could accomplish the degree without trying to be too heavy and creating sort of like you have to take these 2 languages, or you have to take this. Even within the history, they get to select which hours they're going to take for getting the associate's degree in history. So that's SDC, but I don't know if I don't think SDC is reflective necessarily of all the other institutions across the state. And so I don't know how to answer that as far as what level or number institutions are specifically requiring foreign language at the community college level for the associate's degree.
I would say that this Red Hills, I would say many times it really depends what the 4-year the student's going to is if we offer them. We have the languages, but students will take it if the degree requires it or doesn't require, but that's basically comes down. We don't have a specific requirement to community college for languages.
Right.
Go ahead,
please,
Jake.
go ahead, Jake.
Oh, I just going to say I did some very quick research this morning and looked at 33 major 4-year institutions across the state. 22 of the 33 that I could find had departmental language requirements. 3 of them have collegiate language requirements. The collegiate language requirement is easier because if it's a college requirement, students can take lower level courses even if their field of study complete. It's the problem with these 22 ones that have a BA that require up to 14 hours of language. Of these 22 schools, 6 of them, I should say, 6 of the 22, including my own institution, offers a BS opportunity. And that opportunity would mean you could get a degree without the language. But then we're left with 16 that only have the BA and require the languages. So it's a real problem. And some of these 16 are really sizable schools. So there's going to be a real issue with, how are we going to do a field of study that doesn't include languages when they are such a major part of so many degree plans in history.
But could I ask a question here? In our discussing these fields of study and the things that fall into the specified buckets, the core, the designated electives, and so on. But it also is expected that the university will lay out the entire degree plan so that were a university to require the modern languages that might be offered at the community college, that would be revealed, so to speak, but that would be in the full degree plan so that it falls back on the community college advising system to make sure that the student is aware for this, the modern languages, whatever language you choose is required. And if you're going to this particular university, it's this much. If you're going to the other, it's this much. You can take some and again, in the advising conversation, there is a BS, which requires no modern languages in there. So I think that inherent in our understanding of how this worked, advising was a key in terms of, again, knowing exactly what the university, what that BA and that BS looked like so that that advising conversation could take place. We hoped to get a great deal of that in the designated core and the foundation courses and the directed electives, but what you're saying to us is that in this case, some of that's going to fall outside of that.
A lot of it's going to fall outside of it. That's the problem. Is up to 14 hours will fall outside of this. And my concern is if it's not included in the field of study, we've been told that universities cannot require it of students. And so that's the problem, is that we were not able to include languages in the field of study because we would have to have included specific courses. And we weren't in a position to say that all students in Texas are going to take Spanish or French or Mandarin or whatever. And right. So we didn't put it in. And now we face the problem of, students coming into Field of Study Complete, coming into any of these 16 sizable schools across receiving institutions across the state saying, well, I'm Field of Study Complete. I don't have to take any more lower level courses. And they're being faced with, no, the degree plan requires 12 or 14 hours of a foreign language. It's tricky. And I agree with you that advising is a very central part of this. But all it will take is one advisor to miss that, and a student, especially in these institutions that don't have BS degrees, are really going to be hurting.
So the institutions that don't have a BS option, the student would either be required to take the language because it's a program or college requirement. They take foreign language. The institutions that have the BS option, the student would be informed that they could proceed on with the BS option.
Yes.
But if they wanted to have a BA, they would have to pick up the language. So how many institutions was that again, Jake?
So based on my very quick research, there are 16 institutions that only offer it as a BA with a language requirement.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are 6 institutions, make sure I get this right. There are 6 institutions that offer a BA and a BS. And that my institution is one of them. And so we are fine. We have a BA. If they want to do languages, they can. If they're Field of Study Complete, they can go straight into a BS and there's no trouble. They won't have to take any additional lower division. But if they're coming for a BA here or to any of the other 16 schools that just offer BAs, they will maybe face the, perhaps an unwelcome, startling reality that they need to take up to 14. It depends on the institution, but up to 14 hours in lower level language credit. And that seems to me to be antithetical to the purpose of the field of study, which was to obviate the necessity for any further lower level credit.
The statute says that you don't have to take lower division courses for the major.
Right.
So if it's an institutional requirement, you can take it. If it's not, you are not required to take it per the law.
So is a department requirement or a college requirement an institutional requirement? Yeah.
So, and Todd has had a question.
Yeah, so I can speak to this at least from my institution, University of Houston. The BS is an institution. I mean, the BA and the BS requirements are university requirements, and you're going to run into the same problem across all of the humanities. And I think an impractical solution would be trying to force all of the humanities to adopt the BS, because part of what happens, at least what I see in my associate dean's role, is students sort of sort themselves out. If they find foreign language something that they can't do, they gravitate towards BS degrees. If they're terrified about math, sometimes they find their great love for foreign language. But there's also powerful disciplinary reasons for doing foreign language. Many historians focus on the history of other places where languages other than Spanish, other than English, are spoken. And we're in a state where there's a diversity of languages spoken. And I think it would be important for the integrity of our degrees to keep that in place. So that's my editorial comment. The more practical comment where it would be useful to have the foreign language built into the field of study across the humanities is that I see this as an associate dean as a barrier to graduation, and students will put it off until the last moment. And so if it's not something that they're either advised or required to do in the 2-year college, and I was a transfer student myself, so I appreciate this acutely, I think we risk delaying their graduation. And it's a challenging terrain because the standards for foreign language instruction vary greatly across the state. Our departments, for whatever reason, do the 1,000 level at 5 credit hours, but our 2-year college partners do it at 3 credit hours. And it creates, I think, difficulties for some students who come in with less language training. It's not that they're not as smart as FTICs, it's just that they have missed those 2 extra hours. And it's also very useful, I think, to have them do it at the community college level because they can knock out that foreign language at a more affordable tuition rate. And the other thing that I think happens at institutions like mine is that what's often required is a shadow number of hours. So what we require is 6 hours at the 2,000 level. Now, students may have to take that 1,000 level course, but it just drops in as excess credit. or gets them close to the 120. And so I think it's a kind of thorny issue that we'll want to think about for the field of studies more broadly in the humanities. It's not a history problem, it's philosophy, English, and so on problem.
It's a BA problem, and I don't,
Yeah.
as a guy who has a BA myself, no, I don't think it's a problem. In fact, I'd say foreign language is an asset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a challenge for our framework. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Todd. That was a good explanation. I appreciate that.
The only thing that our committee could come up with, and we weren't able to do this, it wasn't within our remit, but the only thing that we could think to a solution to the problem was to have two separate fields of study for those who were planning to go to an institution that only offered a BA, or those who wanted to earn a BA, because there are both, both sides of that, institutions that only offer it and people who only want it. And then a second field of study for those interested in a BS degree. And this would, the fields of study, I think, would be very similar. It's just the BA degree would have more robust requirement for languages.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't propose that because that, of course, wasn't within our remit, but that's something that the committee wanted us to bring to you to talk about the concern we have about the field of study and the only way we could think to fix it.
But it still runs into the problem, right? Are we going to pick English over French?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, because the directive is specific classes we have to identify, not just say 6 hours of language, right? And then I don't think we're allowed to do that. And that's the other problem here, is specifying which specific languages we were going to mandate.
We would
or
have
suggested. Yeah.
we'd have to have the latitude to be able to just say, 6 hours or 8 hours or 12 hours, whatever we decide of foreign language. Keeping in mind that most institutions will accept any foreign language for that, whether it be Spanish or French or Chinese or anything. But also, as Trini says, that we can't determine what language is going to be taught in the state. We can't say it's these courses. We'd have to have latitude on that as well.
Is there a
Go back
possible
to something.
exception to the rule that we can work a sort of solution on language?
Going back to something Laurel said a few minutes ago, is that a key component of this framework was the connection to the four-year institution that the student is targeting.
Mhm.
And the student can certainly take those foreign language courses at the community college. There's nothing that prevents them from doing so. The question that I think is before us is how, or if there is some mechanism whereby we could make it part of the field of study.
Right.
At the moment, I don't know what that would be, and Elizabeth's shaking her head over here, so
We have to think about
yeah,
that.
we'd have to think about how that could be done.
I do like the idea of the two tracks of the BA and the BS, because as someone pointed out earlier, we're going to run into this again. So I think
This
it
week,
would.
in fact.
Yeah, English is this week, so this will be
Yeah,
fun.
so I think we need to think about what that looks like, and it may be, I think there are some solutions here. I mean, what I hear in everybody's comments are germs of the solution. I think we may have to, take a step back on the structure itself and say, did we miss a BA, BS delineation for some, discipline areas? Or did we, is there some accommodation we can make in that for courses like modern languages?
I think my biggest concern and the concern of the committee was echoed in Dr. Romero's point that we are very concerned that a field of study that only really works for the BS, the one we're proposing to you today, might lead to a discontinuation of BA degrees in history programs across the state. And that really would be a very sad thing indeed. Languages are already under some stress, some threat in many institutions, and languages are essential to the humanities. They're very important. And then the last thing we would want to do would be to accelerate the demise of language study and learning by adopting a field of study that makes it impossible to include hours in languages toward a BA.
Agreed.
I'm wondering if there's an option for some of these to put in the core, some of those language hours in the actual field of study. But I guess I don't think you can, I mean, the way that it's designed is it would be a specific language. I don't know if you could just do like language requirement.
That would be ideal.
Yeah, because Galen, you said you have 6 hours, like it's 2 semesters. Is it, I don't know if they're 4 or 3 hour courses.
They're 4-hour courses, so we have 8 hours in our history degree. We have the first 2 semesters requiring a foreign language in the same language. And that's pretty typical. If you require 4 semesters of a foreign language, you're losing flexibility in your 60-hour
Right.
structure, right?
And ours are 4 hours too.
Okay,
I think
And where do those fit in your core curriculum or in your degree
Yeah.
requirements, Laurel and Galen?
Yes.
Where?
In the core.
which component area is it? The,
Language, philosophy, and culture
Okay.
typically.
I didn't know if they were also the optional component
Okay,
area.
I've got
Yeah,
too
we
much-
tend to replicate everything there as
And
well.
I've got
okay.
too much spread out over here to try to dig up degree plans right now.
Yeah,
You may want to check on that, Elizabeth, because there was back about 3 or 4 years ago where the Corning board said you could not put languages in the core.
yes,
It might be.
that's on my pending list of things to.
I
Yeah,
think we just have our second year languages in the core. I don't think we can put the first year in. It was,
Exactly, that's the
Yeah.
key. We
That's
can
it.
put the second year, we can't put the first year. So if you could change that, the core could pick
Okay.
that up without any problem.
right.
and then the universities, are you, for your start and stay students or your historically called native students, is it 12 hours?
it varies widely. I have here, I can give you some examples. Angelo State is 12 hours, Lamar is 9, Midwestern is 12, Sam Houston is 14, Sul Ross is 8, Tarleton is 14, A&M is 14, Summer 6. Let's see, Texas A&M Corpus is 6, and I mean, the list goes on. It goes from
Yeah.
literally 6 to 14. It's
Yeah.
all over the place. That's why I like that. If we could come to some way of getting 8, that might might allow for
So you
universities to
guys
change.
can decide
14
how
to
you
8.
want to move forward. If you want it just to be for the BA, but like, I think we have stickiness. But I don't even know what you want us, I don't know what the committee wants us to do in terms of the framework.
Is that a question that would fit? This is Galen Scott, sorry. Is that a question that would fit under the general notion of an alternative framework?
Yes, and we
mean,
can, if you guys want to decide how you want to move forward now, I can give the update on the alternative framework now. However you all want to move forward, I'm happy to do it either way. Is it? I think it's the
How
next
about if
thing.
we do this, and it's basically what Elizabeth just said. Consider this as a BS path. Consider what has been,
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I just,
okay.
they can't see that, only if you can see.
Okay, our screen just went away. Consider what our co-chairs have brought forward to us as a BS path, specific to BS. Discussion, vote on that, see what happens. And then add the BA question, not specific to history, the BA question to the alternative discussion that's going on.
Sounds like a reasonable compromise to me, but
I will make that motion that we consider adopting this as a BS pathway in history.
Okay. Have a motion from Galen. Is there a second?
Anything
second.
Galen offers, I second. Fred,
Fred is second. I think we're gonna need two from the university sector.
Okay, Melissa Becker from Tarleton, so moved.
So moved.
Todd Romero, second.
Todd Romero, second.
James, this is Shannon Goodman. Could I
Shannon?
just ask a clarifying question? I'm curious so that I'm looking at what's proposed. So tell me how that would, I'm just curious again, what that would be of the designated core and discipline foundation courses. Are we talking about potentially for the BA that you'd remove some of these and add others, or are you talking about adding to what the foundation courses are?
I think
I
at
don't
this
think we know.
I don't think we know. I
don't
think
know.
it's voting on the concept of just moving forward with the BS, acknowledging the BA doesn't fit and figuring out a future solution for the BA problem.
Well, I guess my question's fundamentally on that. If it's, when you say it doesn't fit, I understand that some may or may not require the foreign language, but to put it in, then all of a sudden you're locked in and you're requiring it more. What's proposed right now is actually more flexibility. So I'm just kind of wondering what doesn't fit, because if you put more structure to it, that requires everything to be one way. Because I think right now you have the flexibility, right, to as a college at a collegiate level, if you have a requirement to be able to require those lower level courses, right, that's outside the field of study.
Yeah,
I'm not following you, Shannon.
yeah, I'm not either. Sorry, Shannon.
Part of this, I'm just looking here, I'm asking the general question. We've got, 200 designated core and 300 the discipline foundation, right? And so would you say, hey, we wouldn't require the 2 world civilizations and we would require 2 languages, or you're going to be adding?
I think some of your question is related to the update we're going to give on the alternative framework and how we're rethinking that. I can't be more specific.
So for the BS, just the BS side, what we are discussing then is what has been proposed, which is, I don't have it written down in front.
Yeah.
But what is proposed, if there was a BA, well, whatever would come after this may require a revisiting of the BS, or it may not, but it would accommodate or not, based on what all the recommendations and studies would be, the foreign language requirement. Now, if we took the BS, and this may be what you're asking or saying, if we took the BS as it is and then added foreign language requirement to the BS requirements in history, then that would decrease the flexibility that the students have.
Correct. Well, and even the institutions, right? I mean, it just.
And the institution, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just looking here of, on one hand, not requiring something provides the flexibility. And I think it goes back to what Laura was talking about is knowing the pathways and what the students leading to. But if you put it in, then you lose that flexibility, which in some regards I'm seeing here, unless you're talking about replacing. If it's additive, then it's more restrictive. If you're talking about replacing, then I'm curious about what you're replacing.
Or you could do the discipline foundation courses and just have, for the direct electives, the university select the language in the direct electives.
What I wonder is this is Jake Blosser from the subcommittee again. One thing that you could do is that after you have a conversation about the alternative frameworks, you could turn it back over to the committee, and the committee new alternative. I will say, and I think Dr. Gonzalez would agree with me, we had a really fantastic committee. This is the second time I've co-chaired the subcommittee on fields of study, and this committee was just remarkable, and we worked very well together, found consensus relatively quickly. And so I think that all we really need is just some guidance on what we can do, and if we can include languages and how to do that. And maybe in your conversation about alternative frameworks, you could give us some more guidance, and then the committee can come back with a recommendation for the BA.
Yeah, and that is what we have a motion and seconds for, is a focus on the BS, not what could or might happen with the BA, but just the focus on the BS and this particular framework for the BS. Camber, you had your hand up earlier. I know you took it down, but I want to give you an opportunity if you want to say something.
Well, I just was curious if the committee thought that the conversation, if they were able to consider the conversation about the foreign language requirement, the modern language requirement, would that actually inform any of the other discussion about the BS path? Are you very satisfied that you have a BS path that your committee is at full consensus on, or does additional discussion need to happen now that you might have that option to do what your committee proposed as a possible solution to have both paths?
Well, I think that the current field of study that's proposed really works very well for the BS. I think we have broad consensus for the BS. I think the problem was that this particular field of study does not answer the needs of BA students. And so I think we all can get behind it in terms of a BS path, but it is rather woefully lacking for a BA student.
Yeah, I agree with what was just said. I mean, we're pretty consistent. I think everybody was across the board supported what we presented here, with all the caveats you're hearing now about the issues of language and stuff like that. I think we were given the opportunity to work on a BA path as a subcommittee. The only, besides trying not to pick one foreign language or another foreign language, is how many hours, right? 6, 14, 12. So those are things we're going to have to negotiate, as well as the number of hours, and and we'll see what we come up with. It sounds like we're going to be the guinea pigs for figuring out this alternative pathway for you guys.
Something that I learned in this process that honestly I didn't know is that historians are actually very good rule followers. You gave us rules and we followed them very, very carefully. And now we're finding out that those rules might be a little too stringent for our BA students. And so we're asking for slightly different rules. And if we have different rules, I think we could come up with a really good path for our BA students.
I'd like to call the question. So this would be what is currently under consideration, is approval of this as a path for the BS, and that the alternative, whatever it's called, would be, that's the official language. Would be deferred to in terms of the solution for where we might go with foreign language. Wasn't said very well, but that's what we're voting on.
Yes.
Not on a BA, not just the narrow BS, this particular proposal. So please respond yes or no as I go through and call your name. Melissa Becker,
Yes.
Camber Bulch,
Yes.
Sarah Bowden,
Yes.
Shannon Goodman,
Yes.
Ann Kinnemer,
Yes.
Mitzi Lauderdale. Oh, I guess you can. Jennifer McDowell. Jennifer McDowell, maybe she was off.
She's not here.
Okay. Michael Nojime,
Yes.
Todd Romero,
Yes.
Laura Sines,
Yes.
Timothy Yoon,
Yes.
James Hallmark is a yes. And from the community colleges, Gary Evans,
Yes.
Sylvia Flores,
Yes.
Narayan Thapa,
Yes.
Max Hibbs,
Yes.
Fred Hills,
Yes.
Angelica Gomez Johnson,
Yes.
Marinush Modametti,
Yes.
Melinda Mejia,
Yes.
Aaron Morris,
Yes.
Edith Orozco,
Yes.
Galen Scott,
Yes.
Laurel Williamson.
Yes.
Thank you, members. All those voting apparently voted yes.
Yes.
And for that, we'll follow up
Yes.
with the VA, and I'll turn it over to Laurel as we keep going forward.
All right. Next on our agenda, and I would say this is a perfect segue after that discussion, is the update on the work of the alternate framework work group that actually came out of really looking at the sciences, but clearly we have a bigger alternative world than we thought. So I will turn it now over to Elizabeth.
Yes, so as you all recall, at the December 7th meeting, we agreed to convene a work group to evaluate the possibility of developing some kind of alternative transfer framework. A lot of the discussion was really centered on those science challenges, but this and other things have prompted us to broaden that discussion. So we're really, at this point, our charge was really to explore the possibility of developing an alternative framework that allows for more flexibility for disciplines that actually may require less than the 32 semester credit hour core and more of that 18 semester credit hours. So trying to figure out how much can we move around with those lower division courses for disciplines that may have more discipline specific kinds of courses. And then I think you guys saw the members that are on the work group. So we've met 3 times over the last couple of months, and our discussions have focused on really looking at that alternative framework that can fit in to an associate's degree with the flexibility of potentially going up to 66 semester credit hours, which is currently allowed in rule. And so we're contemplating students transferring without being core complete, and then trying to figure out what these buckets would look like. So we are continuing to work through this. We have started looking at different degree plans to see what current universities or what degree programs at universities, how much of that is really core curriculum in the first 2 years. And also looking at some examples from the community colleges that are doing less than the 42 semester credit hour core. So trying to open it up and see, okay, what could potentially be the sweet spot for some of these, for these buckets in terms of numbers of semester credit hours. So one thing that we are going to request of all of you is the 4 members of the work group have kind of dumped some stuff in, and we've looked at those degree plans. Coordinated board staff is going to reach out and we're trying to figure out what method we're going to use to collect this kind of information from each of you so that we can see some other examples across disciplines. I guess apparently this BS is now the BA is now in question. So getting that so we can look at a broad array of degree plans and see what that might look like for moving forward. And I'm just going to pause there and see if any of the other members of the work group have anything to add. But this is likely going to be an endeavor that's going to take a while. And it's not only this group deciding us, then we have to go through the rulemaking process, which is takes some time as well. So I just wanted to let you all know that moving forward. So I just, before we go to questions, I don't know if Lara or Max, Timothy or Melissa have anything else to add, but that's just kind of where we're at right now.
This is Max. Thank you. I think you explained it very well, the position we're in. We played with numbers and we need more input.
Yeah.
So when you see that request come to you for info about your programs, please fill in the form. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. And what we'll do is our next meeting, we'll continue guys to update you all. We'll see how far we get because I know the summer is coming up, but we're trying to be thoughtful, and I think today's discussion is another little wrinkle we need to consider moving forward. This is always fun puzzle pieces we're trying to put together.
If there's no any additional discussion, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is also Elizabeth discussing the modified credit hours for directed electives.
So this is actually just a fix to something that we had not contemplated, which was instead of for the direct electives only selecting 3 semester credit hours, that you could actually select 4 semester credit hours. So this is just a rules fix for those institutions that for their directed electives. I think this came up first with nursing. It's most of their courses are science, and so they have the lecture in the lab. And so this is really just a logistics fix for moving forward and looking back at those other ones. But I don't think I need a roll call vote, but I just need a vote to make sure everybody is aware of this and you're comfortable. If an institution, for whatever reason, maybe only selected a 3-hour, they could pick the 4-hour for those ones you all have already approved.
Any discussion or question on that? So she doesn't want me to read the names again, thankfully. Okay. We do need a vote though?
Yeah.
Can we get a show of hands, either electronically or with your hand up, electronically? Okay.
Can we specify what we're voting for once again?
Yes. So what we're specifying, what you're voting on is just allowing the prior fields of study that they can have those 4-hour courses for the directed electives in alignment with the rules that were passed by our board in January. It's basically just a cleanup and something we had a hard, you could only do 6 hours, but not everybody has 3 hours in their for the directed electives. So if you want to choose basically the courses in the ACGM, it gives you that option to do the 4-hour if you want. Particularly for things like nursing, I think is where it really came up.
So once again, then I'd ask that you raise your hand either physically or electronically so we can get a, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
It looks like most of them, I can't get the screen to go to the next groups. Let me look at this.
I will say that it passes by majority.
Okay, good. Okay. And then,
Laurel picks it.
oh, Lara, you're just voting? Okay. Okay. Thank you all. And then, I'm so sorry. I feel like Christina Zavala, I apologize. I'm getting you tight on time, but, Dr. Christina Zavala is gonna present on the report on non-transferable credit. You all should have received the report, and Christina is the individual who puts this report together, and just wanted to bring this to y'all's attention. And Laurel and James, I don't know if you have anything to add, but it's something that we thought would be relevant for this group, especially for those who may not have seen it before.
I'd just like to say that on Appendix B, when we got this report, we immediately reached out to the University of Houston Clear Lake because the number was so incredibly different from everybody else's. And and we were just having this discussion last week, and they think they had a reporting error that was a glitch in their system, and they were going to get in touch with and maybe Christina, they have already. But we couldn't believe that the number was real, because that would mean literally hundreds of our students would be coming back saying, my gosh, what happened? And that's not the case. So anyway, just to let people know, because it's kind of startling when you see it and you don't have that background.
Christina?
Yeah, thank you. Thank
Okay.
you for pointing that out. That was going to be something that I was going to address with the group as well. Yeah, we definitely have been in communication with them and have linked, I believe, some transfer related folks at the institution to the reporting officials, and likely, like you said, there was some kind of reporting error that took place. So I know it was definitely an alarming number. I think it was around 15,000 courses or so. So implication for that, right, is that it would decrease the total number of courses that we're seeing denied credit, right? So there would be a little bit of movement there. Before I share my screen and sort of get into some very high level brief details in the report, I did want to ask Lori Fisher if she could just go on camera and say hello really quickly. Lori is the newest member of my team, and she's also going to be taking on a lot of transfer work. And so we're going to be working in partnership together. So definitely just wanted you all to at least see her face. So Lori, I'll mute myself, and then you could just say hello real quick.
Hi, I'm Lori Fisher.
Thanks, Lori. So I'm just going to share my screen, and Elizabeth, like I said, it's just going to be kind of high level, some takeaways.
Sure. Yeah.
And you all, I just have one screen. It's just my laptop. So I'm about to share it. And if you all could let me know that you can see it clearly, that would be really helpful. So let me go ahead. And all right. Can you all see my screen? Looks like, I think so. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let me try to make this bigger for you all. Okay, so one of the things that we have done in the report is rather than showing just all of the courses throughout the year, kind of breaking it down, because we do see a little bit of difference depending on if you're looking at the fall or the spring semester in terms of why institutions are saying that they are institutions being universities, why they're saying that courses are being denied credit. So, you know, across fall and spring semester, we're really seeing that the leading reason is that courses are falling outside the degree requirement. You see a little bit more variation, fluctuation in the spring semester as to, you know, some more reasons just moving up in the ranks, if you will. But what we see here is, like I said, courses are being mostly denied credit for falling outside the degree requirement. Next highest is that these courses aren't meeting the minimum grade requirement. Likely, there might be a couple of things going on here. So when we first started collecting this data, initially we did not specify anything about particular grades. And so, you know, this reason was actually pretty high, a lot higher than what we're seeing now. And so we realized in talking to institutions that some universities were including courses that got Fs or withdrawals, and these courses wouldn't have gotten credit, period, at any institution, right? And so what we've done is include some more specific language saying, we don't want you to include those kinds of courses that would never get credit in the first place, right? So really, we're trying to think of minimum grade requirement as anything that might be a D. And even in some disciplines, we think maybe there's a C that's being denied some credit. We don't really quite know what that breakdown looks like per division or department at each institution, but it's something that we can speculate is like there's definitely some kind of departmental level requirement about a certain grade needing to be achieved to receive credit. Likely this would be in the STEMs, we're thinking, STEM fields. Moving on, so what we're seeing is that between 45 to 50% of all of the courses that we see that are being denied, that if we look at it at the student level, we are really seeing that around, like I said, 45 to 50% of students have 2 or less courses that are being denied credit by universities. We also see, though, that students, that on the other end of it, we see about 20 to 23% of courses being denied credit. Like a student might show up 6 or more times on our CBM OOT report, and they're being denied 6 or more times credit for a variety of different reasons, right? So we're also seeing that. So I think that's something also to pay attention to. When we average all of these course denials out by student, we're seeing that the average is typically around 4. And of course, that average exists, right? Because there's some students that are only coming in with 1, and then that's being inflated by students who are coming in with so many courses being denied credit. The other thing, I know it's going to be likely a little hard to see, but I wanted to just sort of put these 2 tables in conversation with one another side by side, so that what we're seeing here from our most recent report is Math 1314, Education 1300, English 1301, History 1301, and Psych 2301. So these 5 courses actually have been consistent throughout. This is our 3rd iteration of doing this report. They are consistently in the top 5. Math 1314, College Algebra, and Education 1300 are also consistently in the top 2. They kind of switch positions depending on the semester and year that we're talking about. So similar to how I mentioned earlier that, we really see differences in semester, leading, like I said, leading reason oftentimes is a course being outside the degree requirement. We sort of see in the fall that that's like the leading reason for almost all 5 of the top 5 courses. Then we see a little fluctuation with the spring semester in terms of, you know, what are sort of like the leading reasons for course denial across these particular 5 courses. You know, one of the cool things in the report is that we also do top 100, so you could see course breakdowns even further, but just wanted to sort of highlight these top 5 pieces. So as I sort of close this out, like I said, high level sort of observations is, you know, our question to you all as a group, you know, we would love to hear any feedback or comments you have about the report. I know we're short on time and whatnot, but I'm going to include my email on the last slide. Like, we would love to just hear, you know, whatever comments, feedback you have about how we can continue to bolster this report in the future by providing any future analyses that, you know, you all might think would be important to include. And, you know, calling out that I think that there are some particular areas within this report that could signal to us how well some of our transfer initiatives are going, right? So, you know, when we think about all of the work that's been done on the discipline specific subcommittees, right? A lot of that hopefully might mitigate students taking courses outside of the degree requirement. So, you know, maybe we look at that reason and see over time, you know, are we kind of seeing that percentage decrease? You know, just thinking about other course denial reasons, you know, like, where does the TTAC group have leverage and potentially making an impact in some of these areas? So just wanted to sort of have that as a I think, like, as a segue for, you know, considering next steps, future considerations. And I think Elizabeth has some more to share with you all, so I'll just sort of leave it at that. And my email's right here. I think I've included in a lot of other emails as well that you would be able to find, or you can get in contact with Elizabeth and she can share my information. But yeah, definitely want this to be, you know, continued conversation that we can have about ways to make this report even better and more useful for institutions to utilize and to make changes on their campuses. So thank you.
Thanks, Christina. I know we're short on time, but if anyone has any burning comments or questions that they want to throw out right now, we can take a minute or so. But I thought it was, I feel like some of our reports at the coordinating board, they go out and they just like don't get seen. And so this is a really valuable report. And I think Laurel just highlighted you know, one way that that data can be looked at and used in helping in those conversations. And so for those that may not have had the opportunity to review it, I just wanted to give this group an opportunity to either ask questions or Christina, or at least have her present. And then if you want to have an offline conversation with her, to go ahead and plan to do that. Because Christina is so modest, she would never say this is a ton of work. And it's a ton of work from y'all's perspective as well. Like I know the institutions spend a lot of time and are still working to get this report with good data. So acknowledging the hard work that's going on the institutional side and on the agency side, want people to make sure that they're using this report and helping move forward conversations about transfer. So just wanted to take that opportunity to do that. So okay, I think we're at time. So we have some work to do in terms of the alternative framework work group. The work group will continue to work on that effort and update you all moving forward. The English subcommittee is this week, so that should be interesting based upon this discussion. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how far we get. If it ends up being problematic, we may pause that work. We'll just have to see how it goes. And then what we heard from the field was it's very challenging for faculty to come together during the summer. So we are pausing the work of the subcommittees for the summer, but we'll get off to the races, probably start sending nominations. I think communications is next on the list, either August, early September, so we can get that done. And then we'll have a TTAC meeting in the fall. And considering how challenging it was to get this, I will work with Christina to get that scheduled sooner rather than later. I do have one question. This was an hour and a half and I felt like we were a little tight, so we'll probably go back to a 2-hour format. But we'll see what the agenda items look like as well too, because I know everybody is super busy, but we'll get those out as soon as possible in terms of a doodle poll. Is there anything else that you all want us to look at? You're always feel free to send me an email or to James or Laurel if there's an agenda item that you all think is relevant for us to put on the table. We're happy to do that as well. And then I'm gonna see if James and Laurel have any parting words.
Laurel, any parting words?
No, I have no parting words except happy Monday.
Sounds like excellent parting words. I'll echo that and ask for a motion to adjourn.
This
I
is
can-
Kaylin Scott, so moved.
All right. Do
Sylvia
we have a second
Flores.
from Dr. Flores?
Yes.
And I don't think we need to have one from each
No.
sector. So all in favor, say aye and have a wonderful afternoon.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Vice
Everyone,
Chair.
have a good week. Thank you.
Bye.